Now, more stories, insights, and analysis of Illinois policy and politics. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project. Once again, your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Scott Bertram from the Hillsdale College Journalism Department on this edition of Rising. And Scott, there is life for the GOP in the city of Chicago. It's true. The northwest side of the city in particular, a northwest side GOP organization that really kind of sprung up from nowhere after the election of Donald Trump, or leading up to the election of Donald Trump in 2016, and continuing to build. This is an area of the city where there's a lot of first responders, public safety personnel, and they've taken the spark that I guess Trump provided for a lot of cops and firefighters and trade unionists, and are trying to translate that locally with respect to state legislative races, aldermanic ward races, state rep races up here in April, ward races up in February. And the gentleman leading the charge on the Northwest Side is Matt Podgorski, Northwest Side Republican Club Chairman, who joins us now. Matt, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, Scott, thanks for having me.
So the strategy to essentially put down a marker for the Republican Party on the northwest side of the city.
Yeah, so I mean, look, it's we've felt for a long time that there's a contingency in the northwest side of Chicago of, I'll say, right-leaning voters who typically will vote Democrat by a majority, but not an overwhelming majority. And we felt like if we can cultivate some sort of an organization to give those folks a home who don't feel comfortable in the typical Democrat Party, but don't necessarily know much about or feel like the Republican Party has much going on, we thought we'd take a stab at running a little experiment and see if we can get enough folks to join to make it meaningful.
What's the spark here, Matt? Is it Trump? Is it that movement? Is it simply the drift the drift to the left of the Democrat Party?
Yeah, you could call Donald Trump a spark for some of the folks, but I really don't think he represents the majority of the reason why people have joined this organization. I think it's a couple of different things. I think it's in Illinois in particular. You see crushing taxation, and a lot of folks that live in Chicago, especially on the northwest side, have to live in Chicago because they have city jobs. So they feel like they're trapped. They're in between a rock and a hard place. They can't give up their job. Their kids are in school, and they have to stay because of their job, but they don't want to continue to pay these property taxes, state income taxes, sales taxes. So that, combined with the fact that these people are church-going, God-fearing, socially conservative Democrats who see the Democratic Party basically ignoring them and moving more toward a San Francisco type or I suppose certain neighborhoods in Chicago type ideology, and they're sick of it. So they're like, hey, there's other options here that weren't here for the last 30, 40, God knows how many years. So I wouldn't say one spark. I would say there's a lot of different things going on, and they just needed a place to go, and that's what we're trying to provide for them.
So it's sort of a bit it seems to me as from the outside, there's a bit of schizophrenia there, because on the one hand, you have somebody like Rahm Emanuel who's not popular there, right? But then you have an alderman, 45th Ward Alderman John Arena, who's sort of this progressive socialist advancing the cause of government housing, who has withstood some challenges to for his seat. Then you got kind of a property tax appeals legacy hack and Rob Martwick, who's the state rep there. So kind of like, so it's old time Democrats who are socially conservative and see the failure of Chicago Democrats who've lorded over the city for the last 100 years. But then you still have a hack over here and a socialist over there. So how do you kind of square the circle with all of these different reactions to these different local office holders?
That's the biggest challenge we're running into here is, some of these folks, when you talk to them, if you don't talk about specific candidates or political parties and you have a conversation with them, they're right-leaning people, right? They complain about taxes. They complain about the same things most, I would say, Republicans complain about, and they're optimistic about the same things that Republicans are optimistic about. I think the problem is decades of conditioning that there is only one party and there's only one option. And I think it's unique to the greater Chicago area, all those color counties. You know, I listen to your show a lot, and I hear a lot about like Illinois demographically as a whole is no different than Indiana, Wisconsin, yet they're able to elect Republicans in their legislatures and statewide all the time. But there's something different going on in the greater Chicago area. These people are just absolutely conditioned, multi-generation, to be Democrats. The other thing is I think they're totally desensitized to things that would outrage most normal city-going Americans, like corruption, violent crime epidemics, conflicts of interest, like Robert Martwick, like you talked about. They're just desensitized to it. So for us to think that we can completely change, generations of mentality in 2 years, I think is a little bit naive. I think it's going to take a constant barrage of messaging and consistency that could take multiple election cycles, 3, 4, 5, 6 election cycles, to get people to finally understand it's not just the Democrat Party and the array of candidates from center left to far left to choose from.
Well, and
I don't know what else to make of it.
yeah, and to your point, that you're going to have to continue leveling up attractive candidates who can speak the parlance, right, to break that conditioning you're describing, to get people to say, well, I may have these relationships, I may have historically done this, but now I'm going to try something different. Making that change is no easy feat.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, if you have the wrong messenger trying to carry that, it blows up in your face. So, we've done everything we can to recruit the right precinct committeemen, precinct captains to help carry that message locally, and then the right candidates to carry the message on a broader basis. So our first big candidate that we're supporting as a club, again, we're only, 2 years into this now, actually, almost to the day, is Amy Kessam, right? Amy Kessam is exactly what we're talking about. Grew up as a Democrat, 40-year-old daughter of, union workers who just always voted Democrat, never thought really about the Republican Party. But then as she kind of grew up and started earning and paying taxes and stuff, she realized that the Democrat Party's not for me. She became a Republican. She's a sergeant with the Chicago Police Department, socially conservative. I'd say socially, conservative relative to Chicago, not necessarily the country. And look, she's in a union. She has no problem with unions, so she fits the mold of what we're trying to brand out there very well. Hopefully, she'll do well against Robert Martwick, who's a multi-term incumbent who's got a lot of money and a lot of support. But she's the first of many candidates on the northwest side of Chicago that we hope to bring people around to the Republican Party, or at least an alternative to the Democrat Party.
He is Matt Podgorski. He's the chairman of the Northwest Side Republican Club, trying to establish a beachhead for the Republican Party in Chicago. Matt, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen.